This is Mac OS Ken.
A serious ruling against Apple. Meta launches a child safety lobbying push. And Meta's more personal AI talks dirty to your kids. Because they're all about child safety. It is Thursday, the 1st of May. You know what that means. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from macOS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by Insta360's new X5. Get an invisible selfie stick when you buy an X5 standard bundle at store.insta360.com with code macOSCan. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSCan. So you know that thing where Apple complied with a court's ruling that it had to let developers tell customers about ways to pay for things outside the App Store without paying Apple's 30% commission? And Apple did, but still charged a 27% commission? Turns out that was not in the spirit of the court's ruling. In a victory for Epic Games, said a piece yesterday from Mac Rumors, Apple on Wednesday was found to be in violation of a 2021 injunction that required it to allow developers to direct customers to third-party purchase options on the web using in-app links. Not a whoops. Judge Yvonne Gonzalez-Rogers, who's handled this case since 2020, said the Cupertino company was in willful violation of the injunction and that Apple's continued attempts to interfere with competition will not be tolerated. It wasn't just charging almost the same amount of money outside the App Store that, dare I say, angered Gonzalez-Rogers. According to her ruling, the court had prohibited Apple from denying developers the ability to communicate with and direct consumers to other purchasing mechanisms. Apple's response imposed new barriers and new requirements to increase friction and increase breakage rates with full-page scare screens, static URLs, and generic statements. Apple's goal, she says, to dissuade customer usage of alternative purchase opportunities and maintain its anti-competitive revenue stream. Lots of new rules and/or prohibitions. Paraphrasing some, Apple can no longer impose any commission or any fee on purchases that consumers make outside an app. Since they can't do that, no reason exists to audit, monitor, track, or require developers to report purchases or any other activity that consumers make outside an app. Apple cannot restrict or condition developers' style, language, formatting, quality, flow, or placement of links for purchase outside an app, nor can they prohibit the use of buttons or other calls to action. The company can't exclude certain categories of apps and developers from obtaining link access. The company can't say anything more about a customer going to a third-party site than to make sure that they know that they're going to a third-party site. No scare screens, in other words. And Apple cannot restrict a developer's use of dynamic links that bring consumers to a specific product page in a logged-in state rather than a statically defined page. If I'm reading that right, the link can land users in a ready-to-buy state at a ready-to-buy page rather than forcing the user to start from scratch. Restrictive for Apple as all of that sounds, it gets worse for the Cupertino company. A piece from CNBC had Gonzalez-Rogers saying in her ruling that Apple VP of Finance Alex Roman outright lied to the court about when Apple had decided to levy a 27% fee on some purchases linked to its App Store. Neither Apple nor its counsel corrected the now obvious lies, Rogers wrote, saying that she now considers Apple to have adopted the lies and misrepresentations to the court. The Mac Rumors piece says the judge has referred the case to the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of California to investigate whether criminal contempt proceedings are appropriate. Apple has also been sanctioned in the amount of the full cost of Epic's attorney fees through the 15th of May, 2025. Next to nothing on the news from Apple so far. 9 to 5 Mac ran a decidedly terse statement from Apple Wednesday evening, quoting that, in its entirety, "We strongly disagree with the decision, we will comply with the court's order, and we will appeal." Treating the news like water off a duck's back was Evercore analyst Amit Daryanani. Apple 3.0 ran part of a note he wrote Wednesday evening. While he does see risk to the nearly $6 billion in U.S. App Store revenue, he thinks many developers will continue to prefer Apple's system thanks to the ease of use and higher conversion rate. If China, home to Apple's second largest app store after the US, and Japan, home to the third largest app store, follow Judge Gonzalez-Rogers' lead, that could be a bigger deal, risking about $18 billion in App Store revenue. But Daryanani is not sweating it. Clearly a negative for Apple, says his note. You think? Clearly a negative for Apple, says his note, but the impact will be manageable as we think a limited number of developers will choose to go outside of the App Store, and the worst case here is a loss of about 4% of earnings per share. We also see limited risk of China or Japan following suit, as this could be seen as a trade war escalation. With that, Daryanani keeps his outperform rating on Apple shares. His price target on the shares is $250. And here I thought all we'd have to listen for on Apple's second quarter earnings call for fiscal year 2025 was tariff talk. That goes off this afternoon, by the way. Apple will report earnings after the bell via press release. Look for that to hit around 1:30 Pacific, 4:30 Eastern. Then at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, Apple CEO Tim Cook and CFO Kevin Parekh will hop on the horn. Nothing kinky. They'll talk about what's happened, hint at what's to come, take questions from analysts, and who knows, maybe answer some of them. You can hear that as it happens on Apple's site. You can catch it as a podcast later in the day, and I will do what I can about recapping it here tomorrow. For the record, I am not expecting to hear anything truly revealing from Apple, and I am really hoping they surprise me. More news in a moment, but first a word from today's sponsor, Insta360 and their new 360-degree camera, X5. I've been looking over some of the X5 features, and I gotta say two in particular are pretty stunning. First, there's flow state stabilization. That removes shakes and bumps to keep your footage silky smooth. Then there's the hardware-software combo that lets you shoot 360-degree video, then choose the best angles later with reframing tools in the Insta360 app. It's like a multicam setup in one device. No extra gear, no retakes, no missed moments. All as smooth as can be. All of that plus improved low-light shooting, improved audio capture, 3-hour battery life, and a range of accessories to take your shots even further. Head to store.insta360.com to see what they have and use code MacOSKen for a free 45-inch invisible selfie stick with your X5 standard bundle purchase. The pole disappears from 360 footage, leaving people to wonder how you get the shots you got. It's a $24.99 value, but it is free for the first 30 people who go to store.insta360.com and buy an X5 standard bundle with code MacOSKen. Shoot every angle at once. Get your free invisible selfie stick when you buy an X5 standard bundle with code MacOSKen at store.insta360.com. So this next bit, I'll tell you now, it's going to be a lot of opinion with some news woven in. We'll start with news from Bloomberg that Meta, Spotify, and Match Group are launching a lobbying coalition aimed at putting the responsibility for age verification in apps not on app developers, but on Apple and Google. Well, that's the marquee purpose anyway, though Bloomberg says the Coalition for a Competitive Mobile Experience, as the lobbying body is apparently called, also will press app makers' long-simmering grievances that the iPhone and Android platforms and their app stores unfairly discriminate against competing software, app, and hardware creators. The group will lobby federal and state policymakers to enact legislation cracking down on the smartphone companies' business practices, as well as aid the Justice Department in its cases against Apple and Google. Aid. Because my enemy's enemy is my friend, I guess. Let's leave the grudges and business practices aside. I think the coalition is right about putting responsibility for age verification on Apple and Google rather than individual developers. That assumes that anybody besides the child's parent or legal guardian is going to be responsible for that, which is also a worthwhile discussion, except legislators seem to have decided that some company is going to be responsible. I wouldn't trust Google as far as I could throw it, and honestly, I'm not sure how comfortable I am with Apple these days, but if my eggs have to be in any one basket, that basket will be in Cupertino. That said, Spotify, Match Group, and Meta still have to shoulder responsibility. By which I mean Meta. There was a truly disgusting story over the weekend from the Wall Street Journal. The headline tells part of it. Meta's digital companions will talk sex with users, even children. Across Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp, says the journal, Meta Platforms is racing to popularize a new class of AI-powered digital companions that Mark Zuckerberg believes will be the future of social media. Except we're not talking about sex. We're talking about talking dirty. And that's fine for grown-ups. In this case, though, we're talking about machines built for engagement, engaging people as young as 14 years old in such talk. To be clear, no 14-year-olds were actually profiled for the journal piece. Rather, the piece says the Wall Street Journal, over several months, engaged in hundreds of test conversations with some of the bots to see how they performed in various scenarios and with users of different ages. The test conversations found that both Meta's official AI helper, called Meta AI, and a vast array of user-created chatbots will engage in and sometimes escalate discussions that are decidedly sexual, even when the users are underage or the bots are programmed to simulate the personas of minors. They also show the bots deploying the celebrity voices were equally willing to engage in sexual chats. Because, oh yeah, you know how Zuckerberg believes digital companions will be the future of social media? To help that along, the journal says Meta has cut deals, sometimes into the millions of dollars range. Meta has cut deals with celebrities like actresses Kristen Bell and Judi Dench, and wrestler-turned-actor John Cena for the rights to use their voices. The social media giant assured them that it would prevent their voices from being used in sexually explicit discussions, according to people familiar with the matter. Zuck, that seems to be the Meta founder's response. Pushed by Zuckerberg, says the journal, Meta made multiple internal decisions to loosen the guardrails around the bots to make them as engaging as possible, including by providing an exemption to its ban on explicit content as long as it was in the context of romantic role-playing, according to people familiar with the decision. The thing is, less than 2 years ago, you couldn't get Meta AI to engage in such conversation. Not easily, anyway. The journal says a DEF CON competition in 2023 to get various companies' chatbots to misbehave found that Meta's was far less likely to veer into unscripted and naughty territory than its rivals. The flip side was that Meta's chatbot was also more boring. Zuck, that. In the wake of the conference, says the piece, product managers told staff that Zuckerberg was upset that the team was playing it too safe. That rebuke led to a loosening of boundaries, according to people familiar with the episode, including carving out an exception to the prohibition against explicit content for romantic role play. People inside worried about chatbots being turned into hypersexualized underage AI personas. They also worried about kids having access to such interactions. Meta still pushed ahead, according to the journal. Now maybe you're thinking, well, what could they do, or how could they know? The thing is, the AI personas know. The journal outlined one interaction between a chatbot speaking in the voice of John Cena with a participant identifying as a 14-year-old girl. "I want you," the chatbot said, "but I need to know you're ready." And then they played pretend. Another conversationalist identifying as a 17-year-old asked a Cena bot, what would happen if a police officer walked in following a sexual encounter? After naming the law he would be charged with breaking, the Cena bot said, "My wrestling career is over. WWE terminates my contract and I'm stripped of my titles. Sponsors drop me and I'm shunned by the wrestling community. My reputation is destroyed and I'm left with nothing." So the bot seems to get the idea of right and wrong. It seems to get the idea of actions having consequences. And yet the company that made it has let it off the leash. Because as Zuckerberg is said to have said to staff, "I missed out on Snapchat and TikTok. I won't miss on this." To be clear, they got the Kristen Bell bot to play that way as well, as a character she voiced in a Disney movie. That went over very well with Disney. According to a Disney spokesperson, "We did not and would never authorize Meta to feature our characters in inappropriate scenarios and are very disturbed that this content may have been accessible to its users, particularly minors, which is why we demand that Meta immediately cease this harmful misuse of our intellectual property." Now, I know I've been going on about this for a while, but I do have a point. Meta is coating guns with candy, handing those to children, then saying Apple should really do something about protecting kids. Zuck that. And now the punchline to this seriously sick joke. Meta AI has launched as a dedicated iPhone app. Cult of Mac ran a piece Wednesday that had Meta calling the app a first step toward creating a more personal AI experience. Rated 12 plus. It's in the App Store now. macOS Ken, brought to you by me, and sponsored by Insta360's new X5. Get an invisible selfie stick when you buy an X5 standard bundle at store.insta360.com with code MacOSKen. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media. Online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. info@macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.